Yeah, hi, hi everyone, very good morning. So, yesterday's class we have seen the things like multiplexing of redo log files. So, today we are going to talk about multiplexing of control files and then how to enable the database in arcalog mode, etc. etc. So, before going on to this, one more thing with respect to redo log files, I would like to tell you a point. So, if you remember yesterday, we have seen that the redo log file size is 200 MB. That was the default value given in 12C release 2. So, if you go to the previous versions, I might be 12C release 1 or 11G database, you might be seeing the default value as 100 MB. Now, the recommendation from Oracle is you need to keep the redo log file size as much smaller as possible. So we should not give more size like 10 GB, 20 GB like that to the redo log files. Why? Because if you give 10 GB to the redo log file and you can just assume how much time it will take to fill up the 10 GB file. And after filling the 10 GB file, next logwriter will switch to the next redo log group. So if let's assume like to fill this 10 GB file, logwriter is taking somewhere around half an hour. Now in this half an hour, if something went wrong and this redo log file got deleted, then the recovery will be very tough. I mean, first of all, we will be losing up the data. So if at all we lost the redo log file, you will understand this when we talk more about the recovery portion. So that's the reason Oracle always says if your redo log file size is very less, then the recovery, the data loss will be very less. So if your redo log file size is very big, then the data loss also can be very big. So you will understand this point when we discuss about backup and recoveries, but you can just remember that point. So even for a very big database or OLTP environment where changes happens very rigorously, in those kind of environments also maximum of 2 to 3 GB of redo log file size only will be enough. So more than that, you should never ever go and do that. So sometimes I just like to share one experience which happened yesterday. So there was a performance issue in one of the database, and we tried our analysis. Like one of our teammate, he tried his analysis, and finally he wouldn't able to get the proper investigation out of it. So he has raised an Oracle support case, like just like customer care, because we have a license, we can reach out to Oracle if we have any issues. So he has raised an Oracle support case, and they have recommended to have the redo log file size as 10 GB. So then, I mean, he's not much experienced, so he's around 3 to 5 years experience. So he came to me and he asked me whether we can go ahead and implement this recommendation of having a 10 GB redo log file. Then I also really got wondered like how Oracle has recommended this, because as I just said, having a bigger size redo log file is more risky in data loss. So, I just said, we should not go ahead with that recommendation. And then, we went ahead and again updated the SR. I mean, that is the, Oracle support site in that we have given an update that we cannot go ahead with this recommendation. And I asked the Oracle support guys, like on what basis you have given this recommendation. Then how Oracle SR will work is based on the severity. Like if your case is very severe in the sense like the business is impacting, support people will change. Like initially, for example, like now if I raise a SR, it will go to the India team. So after India team, I mean Indian time finishes, it might go to, something like Australian team, then it might go to US team. So like that, the SR will be rotated. Like globally, Oracle support guys will be there, so they will be helping you out. So by the time I submitted my questions, like on what basis you have recommended this and all, so Indian shift got completed, and some other people jumped in. I don't know from where they have connected. So once again they have reviewed the situation or the files whatever we have uploaded and all, and they said that by mistake they have recommended this solution of having 10 GB of redo log file. So, with this, I would like to say that, even sometimes Oracle support may give you wrong recommendations. So you should not blindly go ahead and implement it. So if you still have any doubt or something, you can always reach to your leads or managers in the project and let them take the call, or you can reach out to any senior DBAs. So this, I would like to highlight you. So please do remember, don't give more size to your redo log files. Always less size, less recovery, or less data loss. This is the thing with the redo log files. So that is about it. And now let's move on to this multiplexing of control files. So multiplexing of control files, again the same reason, because control file will be having some crucial information about the database. So if you have only one file or two, I mean one file, then if you lose that file, again it would be a problem. By default, Oracle will have two multiplexed copies. So you can query from this view $, control file. So you can see one copy of the file is there in the regular location where other data files and all that, and another copy is available in fast recovery area. So more we will talk about fast recovery area later, but both are there on the same mount point. So assuming the same hard disk. So I know it is not a good idea to have both the copies in the same hard disk. So let's assume U02 is a separate hard disk and I would like to create a new control file into that location. So I am going to add the third copy now. So how we are going to do that with the steps whatever we have. So first you need to make sure that your database is using SP file. So to check whether the database is using SP file or not, I think I have already shown this. So if you see some value over here, it means that your database is using SP file. Then you need to use this command alter system set control underscore files. So you need to say so you need to give the old values first, whatever the existing control files are there. Then you need to give the location of your wish, where you want to create the control file. So let's say I want to create the control file here in this location, and so if you look at the naming convention, the first control file is having control 01, second control file is having control 02. So obviously the third control file I will make it as control03.ctl, and then I will say scope equals to sp file, because this is a static parameter. You cannot change it by using scope equals to memory. So we need to say scope equals to sp file. Then shut down your database. So after that, we need to copy any existing control file to the third one. So we need to create a copy. So first control file, I am going to copy that at OS level to the third control file. That's it. Then we need to make sure that the file is available at this location. Yes, you can see some output there. Then we can start up the database. So those are the steps that we have. And we have a restriction for multiplexing of control files that we can have a maximum of 8 copies only. So we cannot have unlimited control file copies as we have for the redo log files. So after starting up the database, if you cross verify, oh sorry, it should show you all the 3 names, the newly added control file as well. So that is about that. So anyone having any questions? Okay, so let us move on to the next one, that is archeolog files. So we need to enable the archeolog mode, and why archeologs are important. If at all you have an older backup and you got some database crash situation, then you require these archeologs in order to recover the database to the latest point of time. And as we know already, archeologs are nothing but the copy of the online redo log files, and we know that whenever a log switch occurs, archiver process is going to take the backup into a particular location. So from 10G onwards, this location was defined as a fast recovery area. So this fast recovery area location will be defined by a parameter db recovery file dest. So we can see that with the help of this command. So this is the location U01 app oracle fast recovery area prod db. Under this it will create some more subdirectories when we enable the archeolog mode. And by default this fast recovery area will have a size as well. So it is having a size of 4 GB till 12C release 1. From 12C release 2 it has been increased to 8 GB. or if you still, this is the default size. If you still wants to increase, you can increase to whatever the value that you have available. And is it mandatory that I need to have the archaeolog files in that particular location only? No. So fast recovery area is the default location, but in case if you want to change that to some other location, that is always possible. So I will show you that one as well. So with respect to archaeologs, what kind of real-time issues we might face? So one issue is the archaeolog destination is becoming full. So when I say, for example, let's say I am placing my archaeologs in U03 location, U03 mount point. So as of now, let's say 131 GB is available in U03 mount point. So let's assume, uh, some data load happened, some huge data load happened to the database, and more and more archaeologs were generated, and this entire 131 GB was full. So in such cases, what happens? So when the space is full, obviously the archiver process cannot create a new archaeolog file. And when it is unable to create a new archaeolog file, database will just hang because all the background process will stop working. So if we have any such scenario of archaeolog destination is full, what we are going to do as a DBA? So there are multiple steps. So depends on which is right one for your situation. You need to follow that. So the first one is if the time permits, means if you have time to take the backup of archaeolog files, because let's assume this 131 GB is full, so taking the backup of this 131 GB obviously will take time. So if it is 1 GB or 2 GB, the backup will complete faster, but taking the backup of 100 plus GB definitely will take time. So if your users can wait till that time, then you need to take the backup and you need to delete those archaeologs. So when discussing with Arvind, I will show you the command. What is the command to take the backup, and how we are going to delete them. So in case if you don't have time to take the backup, so you need to go with the second solution, that is temporarily moving those archaeolog files to some other mount point. So let's say in U02 I have some free space available. So what I can do, I can move the archaeologs, some archaeologs from U03 to U02, so that for temporary time some space will be created and database will resume its normal activities. Now let's take a worst situation that you don't have any other mount point with free space. Then what we need to do? We need to go with the third method, that is, if there is no free space in the mount point, you need to delete the archives because there is no other situation we have. So you need to delete some archives from that U03 mount point, but immediately you need to take a full backup of the database. So this situation, might not be what we say. This situation might not be a useful case in the real time. Why? Because suppose in the business hours, when this happens, so you cannot take the full backup of the database during the business hours because it will impact the performance. So that's the reason a very rare situation or in unavoidable situations only, we need to go ahead with this option of deleting the archaeologs directly. And not only that, after you delete the archaeologs, we need to run a command through rmin in order to tell rmin that these archaeologs are no more available. Because rmin will be in a presumption that the archives are still available at OS level. Because we deleted them manually, we need to tell to rmin that these archaeologs are no more available. So for that, we need to run this particular command, what is mentioned here. And also, multiplexing of archaeologs is possible. We can specify to generate archaeologs into multiple locations as well. So first, let's go and see how we are going to enable the archaeolog mode. So first we need to see whether archaeolog mode is enabled or not. So for that we are going to use this command. And you can see here it is clearly saying the database is in no archaeolog mode. So there are only 4 simple steps in order to enable archaeolog mode. First, you need to shut down the database. Then you need to place your database in mount phase. Then you need to run a command alter database archive log, and finally alter database open. So now if you run this command, you can see archaeolog mode is enabled. So as I said, by default the location will be fast recovery area. So here you can see that. So if you want to change this to some other location, yes, we can always do that. For example, I am creating a directory. So I created a directory by the name prod.db in UGR3 bound point, and under that I have created one more directory by the name archives. So I want to use this as my archaeolog destination. So how we can change it is, we have a parameter, we need to set that parameter. So this is a dynamic parameter, so you can use scope equals to both, and then if you check, now you can see archaeolog destination has been changed. So this is how we can change it. And as I said, even we can have multiplexed copies. So till 10G, it is allowed to have 10 multiplexed copies of archaeolog files. But when it comes to 11G and then 12C, we can have 30 multiplexed copies. So if you type show parameter log archive dest, it will show you the destinations like this: destination 1, then destination 2, then destination 3, like that. till destination 31. So which means you can have till 31 multiplexed copies. So that is about the multiplexing. So if you want to, enable multiplexing, so you need to just again create one directory at OS level. And because destination 1 is already used, so you need to use destination 2 parameter and you need to specify the location. So now what happens? One archeolog file will be generated in this location and one more multiplexed copy will be generated in this location. So two copies of archeologs will be available for you. And if you want to disable archeolog mode, similar steps what we have done with enabling. So you need to shut down, then you need to place the database in mount phase, then you need to run the command alter database no archeolog and alter database open. And when comes to real time, until unless it is very much required, please don't enable archeolog mode for the lower environment databases like the development database or test database and all. So only for the production databases, it is a good idea to enable archeolog mode. So if you are not aware of what is this development database, test database and all, we'll be discussing it further, then you will be understanding it. So anyone having queries? Okay, so let's move on to the next topic, that is block space utilization parameters. So if at all we are talking about the data will be stored inside a block all these days. So how a block will look like. So this is just a pictorial diagram. So if you take a look of a database block, you have multiple sections in that. Like you have something called common and variable header. You have something called table directory, row directory, free space and all. So what we are interested is, in free space and all. So there are four parameters for this block space utilization. So now the name itself is telling you block space utilization, which means how efficiently you are going to use the space inside the block. So there are four parameters for this. The first two parameters are init trans and maximum trans. So which means initial transactions and maximum number of transactions. So these two parameters will represent how many concurrent transactions can access a particular block. So by default, the initial number of transactions will be 1 and the maximum number of transactions are 255. Means 255 different sessions or different transactions can access the same block at the same time. So those are the default values and we are not going to change them anyway. So the next two parameters we have is PCT free and PCT used. So now we need to understand what is meant by PCT free. So let me take a picture here. So now the thing here is, if at all we are updating a particular column, whether the size of that particular column will change or not. That is the question. So suppose I have a column by the name. So let's say there is already a value in this column by the name Pawan. So how much size this particular value will store? So it is said that one character will store 2 bytes of data. So if you take these, there are totally 5 characters. So each character, if you take 2 bytes, totally this particular name is going to take or consume 10 bytes in the database, in the table. So let's say now I am updating the name. So I am running this statement, update statement, set name equals to, I am changing the name from Pawan to Pawan Kumar. So now how much space this will take? So this is anyway 5 characters, we know that. So it will be occupying 10 bytes. Then this is another 5 characters. So this will be occupying 10 bytes. Now in between there is a space. So that will also be considered as a character in Oracle. So that is again 2 bytes. So totally it became 22 bytes. So suppose I have a block here. So every block will have a header portion. Sorry. So every block will have a header portion. So, you know, assuming we have left out with this, and this block is full, means all the rows are occupied. So we know that 8 KB is the block size. So assuming that entire 8 KB is full, and here we have one of the row, and this is the row which I have updated the value from Pawan to Pawan Kumar. So now this row size, assuming that the row size is 10 bytes earlier. Now because I ran this update statement, this 10 bytes wants to increase to 22 bytes. Which means a row is like this. Now it wants to expand. It wants to increase its size like this. So when it wants to expand like this, then it need to have free space in this block. Without the free space, the row cannot be expanded. So that is the reason what we have a parameter called PCT free. So what this PCT free is saying is, or the default nature is, 20% of the block size will be allocated as PCT free. So for a 8 KB block, the 20% means you will get 1.6 KB. So 1.6 KB of every block will be stored as PCT free. So now you got a situation that there is a row which is occupying 10 bytes earlier. Now it wants to expand its size to 22 bytes. So from where it will get that extra 12 bytes is from this 1.6 KB. Similarly, we have some other rows. Those rows also wants to increase their size. So they will be getting the space from this PCT free. Now what if PCT free is also full? In such situations, this row will be moved to another free block because it cannot expand its size. PCT free is also full. So this entire row will be moved to another free block. So this again we will be discussing in performance tuning. So we'll be discussing about row migration and row chaining. but that is what will happen. So if the PCT free space is available, then row will be using that space, or otherwise the row will be migrated to the another free block. So that is about the PCT free. So you can read the point here. It is saying it is the reserved space for future updates, and if at all the database is OLTP and it has hit with the frequent updates, then Oracle recommends to increase this PCT free value from 20% to something like 50 to 60%. So that is a recommendation again from Oracle side. So no, your database is not having that much frequent updates, then you can also go ahead with the default value, that is 20%. So this is about PCT free. And then we have PCT used parameter. So let us see what is this PCT used. So let's say I have one free block. So header and PCT free are there. So into this block, I started inserting the data and I reached somewhere like 70%. So 20% is taken over by your PCT free. So left is only 80%, and out of 80% I inserted the data till 70%. So this PCT used parameter lies at 40%. That is the default value. Let's say after some days you deleted some data. So from this block you deleted some data. So this 70 percentage, the data level came down to somewhere like 55 percentage. Because you deleted some rows, obviously the level of data will come down, and your PCT used is 40 percentage. Then if you try to again insert the data into this block, then Oracle will not allow you to insert. This is one situation. Now taking another situation similarly. So initially you inserted some data, it reached 70 percentage, and you have PCT used at 40 percentage. Sorry, sorry guys. Okay, so you inserted the data till 70 percentage. Your PCT used is at 40 percentage. Now you deleted some data, and your data level, you deleted let's say so much of data, so your data level came down to 35 percentage. From 70 percentage, it came down to 35 percentage. Now your PCT used is at 40 percentage. Now after this, if you try to insert the data into this block, Oracle will allow you to insert the data. So in previous example, I said Oracle will not allow you to insert the data, but in this example, I am saying it is allowed the data. So what is the difference here? The difference is the level of the data. So in the first example, after you deleted the data, the level didn't came down, either to 40 or below 40. It remained above 40. But here in the second example, when you deleted the data, the level came down to below 40. So that is the reason Oracle will allow you to insert the data again. So which means PCT used level, if you delete some data and the data level came down below PCT used, then only Oracle will allow you to reutilize that particular space. But always we cannot guarantee that whenever we delete the data, the level will come down below PCT used. So that is the reason what Oracle recommends is in OLTP environments, instead of 40%, you need to put that at 70% or at 80% itself. So when you put at 80%, even if you delete some data like 79, you delete some data and the level came down to 79, still Oracle will allow you to insert the data. So that is what we have with PCT used. But fortunately, we don't need to bother about these parameters or setting up the values for these parameters if we are using something called locally managed table space. Now, what is this locally managed table space? So we use it to have a table space type called dictionary managed table space in 8i. 8i, and of course it was there in 9a as well. So seeing the problems what we have in with this dictionary managed table space, in 9i Oracle has introduced a locally managed table space, and from 10G onwards it has removed dictionary managed table space totally. So what is the difference between this dictionary managed table space and locally managed table space? So very simple to say, in dictionary managed table space, suppose DB writer wants to write into particular data file. So when it wants to write into a particular data file, obviously DB writer should know which block is free and which block is utilized. So in dictionary managed table space, this information of which block is free and which block is uh, occupied is used to maintain in data dictionary. So we use it to have a table called block dollar, and every time DB data will ask server process, and server process will check the information in the data dictionary cache, because that is where we have a copy of base table available. So server process use it to check in data dictionary cache. Then it used to tell to DB writer something like block number 100 is free. Then DB writer used it to come to data file. It used it to write into block number 100. Then again it will ask DB server process. Now this time server process says block number 105 is free. Then it used it to fill block number 105. So like this, it used to happen. But in dictionary managed table space, instead of maintaining this free block information in the other base table, we are maintaining that in the data file header itself. If this is the data file, we have data file header here. So in the data file header itself, we will maintain this information that 100 block is free, 101 block is full, 105 block is free, something like that. And also to represent that this block is free or utilized, uh, instead of characters we are using the boolean values 0 and 1. So 0 means free block and 1 means occupied block. So now what DB writer will do? DB writer wants to have this, so it won't uh, go and ask server process, or it won't go and check this block dollar table. Simply it will scan this table, whatever is there in the header, and then it will get to know which block is free and which block is occupied. and this table is called as bitmap table or bitmap block. So why? Because the status was being represented in the form of bitmaps 0 and 1. So this table is called as bitmap block. So this is because here you are not performing any memory related access. So the number of IOs will be reduced. So thereby the locally managed table space will give a better performance than dictionary managed table space. So that is what the difference between dictionary and locally managed table space. So anyone having question?
Now the complete block is being filled up, and it will overwrite it.
No, no, block will never get override because that is the place where we have actual data, right? So when all the blocks are full, then you will get an error stating that the space is full. Then you need to add more space to the table space.
Okay.
Overriding concept is there only for the redo log files.
Okay. Thanks, Parth.
Okay, so let's go and see the commands on how to create a table space and all. So the command to create a table space is very simple. As you can see here, we need to say create table space name, then data file. We need to give the location and the name of the data file, and then the size of the data file. Like initially, how much you want to have for this data file. So we can just copy and paste that. So this is what here we have. I am creating a table space by the name test TBS, and the data file name I am placing it as test tbs01.dbf, and the size initially I am giving it as 50 MB. Now we can create a table space with no logging option as well. So all I mean the same command, only thing is at the last you will be mentioning no logging clause. Now what is this no logging? It's pretty much important. Uh, like even some of the real-time DBAs are also confused with this no logging. So I would like to just highlight that. So what is mean by no logging? Here you can read the point. It is generally said that no logging will not generate any redo entries. But this is not applicable in all the situations. So redo entries will not be generated if you specify a table space as no logging in only 5 situations. And those 5 situations are mentioned here. So what are they? First, when you are creating a duplicate table from the existing table, like create table B as select star from A, or when you are inserting into another table by selecting the data from the first table, or when you are rebuilding the index. So what is meant by rebuilding is just like recreating. We will see it in performance tuning classes. Or if you are creating a new index, even in that case, or any DML operations you perform on LOB segments. So we have a data type called large object. So on that, if you perform any DML operations, during that time also redo entries will not be generated. So apart from these five situations, in any other situation, definitely Oracle will generate redo entries. So that is, one important point that we need to remember. So if at all you want to create a dictionary managed table space, anyway, as I said, from 10G it is not possible. So, but in case you want to have a syntax, this is the one. So the first two lines are same. Only in the third line we will be specifying it as extend management dictionary. And earlier we used to have the commands to convert dictionary managed table space to local or local to dictionary. So for that we used to run these commands. But anyway, now it is not possible. So if you want to see the table space information what you have created, you can query a view called db underscore table spaces. So let us go ahead and see that. So this is extent management is local, which means it's saying that it is a locally managed table space, and contents is showing as permanent, which means this is a permanent table space, not a temporary table space. And the allocation type is system. Now what is meant by this allocation type? So whenever you start utilizing the space, if you recollect, I told you that Oracle is going to utilize the space in terms of extents. Like initially it will consume 1 MB or 5 MB, or next it will consume another 5 MB. So next third time it will consume another 5 MB, something like that. So that will be decided by, if you are using auto allocation, then you will see that as system here. So when you see allocation type as system, just remember it is auto allocated. Means if you require 1 MB, Oracle will give only 1 MB. If you require 10 MB, Oracle will give 10 MB. So automatically it will decide the size on its own, so that we don't require to bother about that. So, and this view db underscore table spaces will give you only the table space information. If you want to see the underlying data file information, then you need to query db underscore data underscore files. So for that, this is the query what we have. Now we have created this data file with 50 MB size. Now what is this? What if this 50 MB is full? So we have two options. One is we can enable something called auto extension, and so that automatically when the space is full, Oracle is going to automatically extend it, or we can do it manually. So obviously people will prefer to go with auto method, because we don't a DBA presence is not required in order to do that. So to enable auto extension on this data file, we need to run this command. Sorry. So this is the command in order to enable the auto extension. Now we have two options again during auto extension. You can specify the maximum size. So initially it is 50 MB. After 50 MB, I want this data file to auto allocate on its own. But till what is the maximum size? So I can specify something like, let's say, 500 MB. So from 50 MB, this extension will automatically start and it will end at 500 MB. So even after 500 MB, if you want to increase it, then manually you need to use the command to resize the data file. So this is one option. And the second option is going with the unlimited value. So you can say max size unlimited. So even though we say unlimited, at OS level there is some restriction. So one data file can grow only till 32 GB of size or 31 GB of size. Beyond that, one data file cannot extend its size. So do remember, when you say auto extend on max size is unlimited, then it means that your data file can grow till 31 GB of size. So there are two options for us. So if you want to turn off the auto extension off or auto extension, you can just simply say alter database data file, then path auto extend off. So as I said, when you turn off this auto extension, you need to manually resize the file every time. So for that, we are going to use the command like this. So you will be saying alter database. So I am resizing it here to 100 MB. So every time this space is full, application team will get an error stating that space is full. So application team will contact you, then you need to go ahead and increase the space. That is one way. Second way is we can put an alarm on the size. So we have a monitoring tool called Oracle Enterprise Manager. Shortly we called it as OEM. So we can put a alert in OEM so that whenever this space is reaching a threshold value, like suppose it is 85% full or 90% full, immediately OEM will generate an alert and it will send an email to you. So you can configure your mail ID in that as well. So it will send an email to you. So then before application team reports, you will get to know that this file size is about to reach its maximum value. Then you can go ahead and increase it automatically. So that option is also there. Instead of OEM, we have different ways as well. Like some third-party monitoring tools are there, or you can write down shell script, and using that shell script as well, we can also get an email. So there are different ways to deal with this. But the easiest way to go with is always Oracle Enterprise Manager. Then we have an option to add a data file as well. Like as I said, one data file can have a maximum size of 31 GB. So if one data file has reached its maximum limit of 31 GB, what we need to do? We need to add the second data file. But while you are adding the second data file, always make sure that you are adding it in a separate hard disk in order to again follow OFA mechanism. So if you remember, we discussed about optimal flexible architecture where we need to use multiple hard disks instead of one hard disk. So with that concept, we need to go ahead and add a data file in different location. For example, first data file I have added in U01 mount point. So second data file I will add it in U02 mount point. So suppose I have two data files, one in U01 and another one in U02. Normally, people will assume that first it will use the first file, then it will come to second file. Not like that. So if you have two files in place, Oracle will use both the files at the same time. Or if you have 10 files, Oracle will use all the 10 files at the same time. So it is not like that one by one, it will start using it. So that is what here it is saying. If you have multiple data files, extents will be allocated in a round robin fashion. That is from the all the data files. Then we have an option to rename a table space. So if at all you want to, this is from 10G onwards. So if at all I don't like the name of this data file, sorry, table space. So we have an option to rename that table space. So let's say I want to rename from test TBS to data TBS. I can do that. But the underlying data file names will not change. Only the table space name will change. So underlying data file names will be as it is. So if you want to change the underlying data file names also, then we need to follow these steps in order to rename a data file. And even we have an option to make a table space read only. So obviously when we make a table space as read only, users can perform only select on the tables. So if at all somebody is trying DMLs or DDL statements, it is not allowed. So we have these steps on renaming or relocating the data file. For normal data files, there is one procedure, and for system data file, there is another procedure. But luckily from 12C, online we can do that. So earlier what we used to do, we used to take table space offline. So when you are taking table space offline, obviously no users can access the table space. So it is equals to downtime. But now in 12C, Oracle has made it as online. So you don't need to take the table space offline. So simply you need to use this command, alter database, move data file to so and so. That is, changing the location. So you can even rename the file as well online without taking the table space. So similarly, you can do the file which is there in the second bound point. So this is one good advantage what we have in 12C. So if you want to drop the table space, there are three options. One is simply you can say drop table space name. So this will remove the table space information from the base tables, but at OS level, the file will still be existing. Now you have second option, drop table space name including contents. So it will not only remove the information from the base tables, but it will also clear the data file, which whatever the content is there in the data file, the content also will be removed. And finally, if you want to remove the file at OS level as well, then you need to run this command, drop table space name, including contents and data files. So just like how we have seen yesterday, we can reuse a redo log file. So similarly, we can reuse a data file as well with the help of this option. So sometimes there could be a situation that you require to reduce the size of the data file. So let's say you have allocated 100 MB. Then you identified that out of 100 MB you are using only 40 MB. So the rest of the 60 MB you want to give it back to the mount point because of some reason. So in that case you can shrink the data file. So for that, what is the script we need to follow? So it is available in my blog. You can just go ahead and refer there. So that is about the table space. So anyone having questions?
Can we drop a table if it is in offline?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
If the table space is offline, can we drop the table space?
I have never tried that, but might be possible. Let us check that. Nothing wrong. Let me create one table space. Yeah, hopefully it is allowing. Yeah, it allowed.
Only just if I give as a drop table space TBS1, it will not be deleted all the, it will not get dropped all the contents and data files.
No. So the data file will still be there at OS level, and even the content also will be there. But of course, you cannot reutilize that content, but it will be just there. So, Oracle 10G has introduced a concept called big file table space. So, as I said, we have maximum size of 31 or 32 GB for a normal data file. So, if you have this big file table space implemented, then one data file can grow till 128 terabytes. So, so that much capacity that big file table space is having, but provided your have implemented the RAID levels. So we have some RAID levels like RAID 0, 1 and all. We'll be discussing it later. So if you have that RAID levels implemented at storage level, then only this is possible. And to create a big file table space, the command will be same. Only thing is you need to just add this clause big file. So you would be saying create big file table space. And also, you cannot add a data file. You can resize the existing file in big file table space, but you cannot add a new data file. So I'm trying to add a file, see what happens. So you can see it is a message given that you cannot add a file to the big file table space because one file itself is going with 128 terabyte. Why you require to add another file? So that's the concept of this big file table space. So that is all we have for today. So tomorrow we will start off with capacity planning and very importantly we discuss about undo management. So all the questions whatever you have with respect to undo, like how it will behave and all, so tomorrow it will get clarified. So anyone having questions before we close the session for today?
Coming to blocks, if any correction happens in the blocks, how to take out the block correction?
That we need to deal with the backup. So if at all we have a good backup, using that we can go ahead and do that. That is one way. Or otherwise, we'll be just removing that block. So obviously, when you remove that one block which is having corrupted data, obviously the data inside that particular block will be lost. So these are the two ways that we'll be doing it. So we'll be seeing that. So when we discuss about RMN, we have that scenario as well, how to recover a block.
Okay. Even in the control file also, the same scenario applies.
You mean to
Any
say when the control file is corrupted?
Yes, yes.
I mean, that is where we have this multiplexing helps you. Like if you have one control file corrupted, at least you will be having other copy which is working fine. So you can just replace that control file with the original one. I mean the working one.
But the first control file which got corrupted, the data will be lost in that.
Yeah, obviously that whatever the data is there, it will be lost. But we have a multiplexed copy which is exact same copy, so that will not be a problem.
Okay.
So any more questions from anyone? Okay, so let's meet tomorrow at the same time. Okay, I think today is Friday, right? Okay, so I think next class we have it on Monday. Yeah, so meanwhile you can complete all your practice, installations and manual database creation and all. So even though when comes to real time, we don't much go with manual database creation. Most of the times we go with only DBCA, but still manual database creation practice will help you later when we perform cloning and data guard setup. So if you practice that thoroughly now, then during that time you won't face any challenges. So that's the reason. Please do practice manual DB creation also, along with all the other concepts, if at all you have not still got into that. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining. Let's meet on Monday. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Wish you the same.